Good evening. I call Monday, January 11th. Call the school committee meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the governor's order concerning imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, meetings in town of Oxford will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. We will strive to provide access to such meetings via a link or number to call in or other similar option. In the event we are unable to accommodate same despite best efforts, we will post recorded sessions of the meeting as soon as possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings. For individuals who wish to participate remotely, please dial 1-646-558-8656 and enter PIN 838-8725-5005, or the meeting code is listed on the town's website, on the school's website in this meeting, with the passcode of 907127. Call the meeting to order at 6:10. First item of business tonight will be, we have Ashley McGowan with us, the student representative, for a report. Ashley.
Hello. I have a shorter report for you today as we ease back into things from break. Before break, we had holiday trivia and it was a really big success. We got great feedback from students and a lot of faculty members actually participated and had a great time. So we're planning to do something with that again in the future, probably in the spring. And we currently don't have any other events set in stone, but we're hoping to continue with our virtual events and host a virtual talent show where we have video submissions and we'll compile it into one show and then share it with the community. So that's all we have in the works right now, and thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Ashley.
Tonight, our next item of business, we've done an information proposal. We did go with the search firm NES-DEC, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Burke and Mr. Canacchioli to give us an update with their process with that firm.
You and me, Dave. You can start with him.
So we did have an initial meeting with Dr. Collins, where Dave and I had talked about some of what we were hoping the committee to accomplish and for what it to look like. We brought back to you tonight in your packet. You have a proposal for a timeline for the upcoming tasks, and then we have a meeting Wednesday where we're going to discuss a couple of things on here, including the language in the recruitment letter and in the ads. We'll discuss as a committee. So I think our thought for tonight was asking first if there's any questions on the timeline.
With the timeline in our packets, anyone have any questions? Mr. Burke and Mr. Canacchioli with the timeline of such, then also you'll be developing a search committee, is that true?
Right.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to discuss on Wednesday is the composition of that search committee and then exactly how we want to go about with the recruitment and the decision process on who's on the search committee. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
Thank you. Right, that'll be on Wednesdays and be more information coming back. I did skip over some minutes we have. So I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of regular meeting December 14th, special meeting December 14th, and special meeting on December 21st.
There's one from the 16th as well. 14, 16, 21.
14th, I'm sorry, it says let me say it again, please.
So we had the regular meeting of December 14th.
Yep.
Then we have a
14th.
special meeting of December 16th. And then a regular meeting of
Okay.
December 21st in our packet.
Thank you for that revision. I'm going to go back again to the minutes of the meeting from December 14th, the special meeting on the 16th, and the special meeting on the 21st. I entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second discussion. Okay, consent agenda, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Let the record show, 5 in the affirmative, and also for the record, in taking attendance, Mrs. Griffin will be remote this evening. So 5 members in attendance. Okay. Next up, we have some news from Mr. David Nugent, Principal of Oxford High School. Mr. Nugent, I understand you have some Mass Award and Adams Scholarship recipients.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me
You have the
to
floor.
share this good news. I do want to add something to Ms. McGowan's presentation. She neglected to say that a certain principal came in second with this Christmas quiz.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Mrs. Forbes for hopping in to check it out.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Truex for doing a great job on that quiz.
Funny. So tonight, I have the honor to present to you the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship winners for the class of 2021. We have 27 this year.
Wow.
In order to qualify for this scholarship, students in their sophomore year need to score at least 1 advanced and 2 proficient on the 3 MCAS exams they take, but also earn a raw score that is in the top 25% of their class. This scholarship is for 4 years, and it covers the tuition for the 4 UMass campuses, all 9 state universities, and all 15 community colleges. The scholarships range anywhere from $740 a year to a little over $1,500 per year. But we know any bit counts, especially wherever we now know the cost of textbooks. So congratulations to Nicole Biedritsky, Luke Bonney, Dorothy Bui, Roland Butsky, Giovanni Cassiano, Seth Christensen, Tyler Constantine, Chloe Davis, Cassie Dorr, Aidan Fahey, Ashley Harris, Corrine Holmes, Kelly Generico, Danielle Johnson, Samuel Kahn, Madeline Lebrecq, Winston Liu, Sawyer McPherson, Ashley McGowan, Nicholas Mercier, Caitlin Moquin, Joseph Zeller, Hui Tran, Amy Vo, Declan White, Desmond White, and Samuel Wing. Congratulations to those 27.
Congratulations. Sir.
I also have the pleasure to present to you the class of 2021 Central Mass Superintendent Scholar, Mr. Joseph Zeller.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Joseph, I believe, is zooming in with his family tonight. Some of Joey, as we affectionately know him as, his academic achievements. One, he's recognized for his 2019 PSAT scores as a commended student in the National Merit Scholar Program for outstanding performance.
All right.
Only about 36,000 out of 1.5 million students are honored with this. So congratulations
Wow.
to Joey.
Good job,
You
Joey.
available to come on camera for a moment?
He's right there.
Can we blow him right up there in a couple words?
Let me,
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I have a lot more, Joey, so just hold on one second. He's also recognized as an AP Scholar with distinction for outstanding performance on advanced placement exams. He is the 2-year Secretary of the National Honor Society and Vice President of the Student Council. He also is recognized as the top student fundraiser in Massachusetts for the 2018 MASC Polar Plunge for Special Olympics. He's a 2-sport varsity captain and a volunteer for the Youth Service Opportunities Project. After graduating, Joey plans on double majoring in accounting and finance and hopes to become a certified public accountant. Currently, he has accepted, but he has received acceptances from Assumption University, Fairfield University, and UMass Amherst. One of Joey's favorite quotes is, "Those who stand for nothing fall for anything," by Alexander Hamilton. Joey is a great young man from a great family. We appreciate all he has done for Oxford High School and the community. Typically, this honor comes with a lunch with the principal and the superintendent at Holy Cross. And I know Joey's disappointed that that has been postponed until the spring, but we'll certainly make sure he's fed one way or the other. He also will get a nice certificate signed by Dr. Nash, and the families will get a program with the senior pictures of all the scholars from Central Mass. So congratulations, Joey.
Very good. Good job, Joey.
Any words, Joey?
Thank you.
Do you have any words of wisdom for the next 11th graders coming up that's going to be in your role pretty soon?
No, no words of wisdom.
Does your brother get your room when you move out to college?
I don't know, maybe. I think he's pretty happy where he is, though.
A very good family, and we're glad he is a representative of Oxford High School.
Yes, congratulations, Joey.
Congratulations, thank you.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Congratulations, Joey.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Pat Hokinson, our food service director. Ms. Hokinson, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Hi, Pat. I have just a couple updates about the participation that we've had. I pulled out from October, November, and December. We started, do you want to go school by school?
Just give us a number, right? I want to go.
All right, we started in October. The average daily participation was 304. In November, it went up to 378, and as of now, it's 440.
Wow.
So it's climbing slowly, which we like to see. The outdoor, the open one that we had 2,161 for December that picked up lunches at the front door. So that's been going up, and we're liking that. I do have menus, if you guys want to look at the menus, how we redoing them now. I didn't know if you wanted to look at them. And update you on the refrigerators. We're getting ready to do Chafees. We're hoping February vacation or April vacation, because we'll have to do it when the schools are closed. So we have 3 quotes going right now, and the average is about 15,000. So we've been working, and Justin and I have been working on that. We just had to get a couple of things that I didn't have today, like how big the doors are and that kind of thing. And then I think Justin was gonna do the budget part of it.
That's it.
He's sleeping.
Thank you. Just an update on the financials for the food service program. To date, we've had a loss of about $67,000 this year. So if you remember the beginning of the year, we put aside about $200,000 as we knew that this year would be a challenge. So that's really what I have for you. We take in about $27,000 through reimbursement through the federal program that we are doing for the free lunches. I guess the reason why I bring this up is there was concern last month that we weren't going to land on our feet at the end of the year. I mean, we certainly didn't want to get to the end of the year and run a deficit in the program. So we had closely looked at this. I did some projections just to see where we were going to land. And at this time, I feel as though that we should be okay. However, I do want the committee to be aware that we are going to eat into that $200,000 that we started the year with. In fact, we already have. But I don't believe we're going to run a deficit at this time.
May I just add?
We're talking about-
We're okay because we put 200,000 from leftover from last year into it. We would not be okay if we didn't have that opportunity to have that money. So, again, this is an extraordinary year. And thank goodness that the federal government has seen fit to include all students, because you're getting between 25 and 28,000 per month, which helps to offset that. given the fact that we really didn't have that program in play in September, really started up in October, November, December, and then we see our initial cost heavier in September, which was half a month, and mostly October. We were around 54,000. 22,000 of that is your salary. The rest is, your expenses that you would have, food and so forth. So that will somewhat level off. Your food costs are going to remain constant, but some of the products that we order at the beginning of the year, we may not have to reorder till later on. So, but just bear in mind, again, going forward to next year, that you may need to, look at all of this. So.
Thank you.
And just one more quick piece of information. We are looking at replacing all the refrigerators. We plan on funding that out of our French River revolving fund, which can be used for building repairs. So it does fit the category of allowable expenditures. It's just I'm hesitant to charge it to the food service program, given what I just stated, and we certainly don't want to run a deficit. So
We could continue.
again, I'm going to charge that off the food correct revolving fund.
We could continue to repair them, but if you remember, Pat indicated they're about 18 years old. And we initially repaired, I think, a few of them, but now, given that factor, when Justin and I met with Pat, we decided that we needed to ask her to go out and start getting real cost. I think the costs were, the quotes that we just received for Chafee ranged somewhere from a low of 13,000 to 19,000. So roughly somewhere in between that is probably going to be the cost of the refrigerators for Chafee and Barton. Our hope is to get those two done, then move on to the other schools. So.
Thank you. May I also add as well, too, we did talk about this, I believe, at our special meeting, but I do want to make it clear again, is that items like this, is that we do want to start including this in our forecasting for our capital expenses, or our capital expenditures, where these would be capital type items as well. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Hunkley. Very good.
All right, just one quick question.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Mr. Chair. So our numbers have been steadily increasing.
Yes.
Do you foresee they're going to continue to increase? I mean, I know you can't forecast, but it looks pretty consistent. I mean, we had a real big jump in December. How's January looking?
So, I'll advertise again with the food bank, which I do once a month, so they pass them out.
Okay.
And hopefully, if this is televised, people are out there and they know they can come and get it, it's all free.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
how's the early January looking? I know we were back in this is our second, back in for 2 full weeks, right?
Yeah, it's about the same,
Okay,
pretty steady.
okay. Sounds good, thank you.
Barton keeps going up.
That's good. All right,
The
great.
little kids love the girls up there. And I just would like to end with, we had our Board of Health come in this week, and I just want to make a comment, because I'm very proud of all my staff, that his last comment was, all 4 schools, good work to Pat and her entire kitchen staff.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to put that in there, because my girls
Thank you.
work hard.
That's excellent.
All righty.
All right.
Nice.
All right, thank
Pat.
you.
Great, have a nice night.
Nice to see you.
And I think if I might add, when we were meeting in the summer, talking about, serving food, serving lunch in classrooms, I remember having a conversation with Pat, Justin, and I about how that whole thing would work, and in meeting last week and talking about it, it has worked pretty well. I mean, it's amazing
Yeah.
how things have smoothed out and no bumps in the road, as Pat said, and things seem to be working, so.
It's good leadership, thanks.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda, we have Policy Subcommittee of the EDC, use of school buildings and athletic facilities, as well as the GCEB Recruitment and Selection Committee. Mrs. Griffin, the chair of that, you have the floor.
Yep, so we have 2 policies this evening for your review and to consider maybe possibly waiving the first reading. So EDC, use of school buildings and athletic facilities. We have some language that was changed based on the recommendation of our business manager, just to make sure that our buildings are being used in a way where they're not necessarily being fully kind of booked up. And we have a little bit more, discretion to make sure that we have people having access throughout our community to be able to get the building and not one person kind of taking over everything. So there's some new language there in that regard for your review. And then we have our recruitment and selection committee policy here that we have made some changes to for you to go through and review again. And there's some new wording as well in regards to, how the committee is going to be made up. And if there's any questions or concerns, I'm sure Dave and I would both be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin. I'll take the first one, the EDC. I'd entertain a motion to approve the EDC, policy EDC, use of school buildings and athletic facilities with the second reading waived.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All being none? Roll call vote, Mrs. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Cannacchioli.
Yes.
I vote yes as well, 5 in the affirmative. Thank you for your work on that one. And the second being this policy GCEB, which is the Recruitment and Selection Committee. And with that, again, I entertain a motion to approve policy GCEB with the second reading waived.
Yeah, I'd make that motion.
I'll second the
Second,
motion.
discussion items. On discussion items, can you please tell us what is and for the people at home, for the record, that the committee will consist of 9 up to 10 members as follows. Can you talk a little bit about the discussion on how these positions were determined to sit on this committee?
So before we had it super specific, kind of almost pigeonholing us into having certain parents sit from certain, the PTO or the school council or different things. Now this gives us a little more discretion that, parents can join those committees. And before we were very specific about, stating exactly who the support staff had to be. So now we've kind of made it so other parents and other people can participate in this. We did change it so there are 2 administrators to be able to sit instead of 1. And these administrators, of course, would be elected by the administrative council. So the council would have say who would sit to interview the building principals. So this makes it a little bit more flexible where we'd be able to have hopefully better representation at the table. And then again, we looked for central office positions that involve business, finance, facilities, special education, student services, or teaching and learning. And we worked to make sure that those committees would also have better representation based on the amended policy.
Thank you, Mrs. Forbes. You have a question?
My question, Mrs. Griffin, who is the administrative council?
I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Nash, but that would be all of our administrators that work together with our superintendent.
We'll yield to Dr. Nash to answer, please.
So we have 2. We have a full, which includes the assistant principals and all of our other members who are made up of the principals and all central office staff.
Okay, so in this respect.
It would be full, your full ad council.
Okay,
So include all of your administrators in the district, central office and building based.
gotcha, thank you.
That's how I would envision it, but I won't be the superintendent at that point in time, but that's how I would envision it.
I just wanted to be sure I understood who we're talking about.
And one of the things I know, in a discussion leading up to some of these policy changes, is I've always been a proponent of the sitting school committee should set the rules for what these positions entail and who's on these committees. And the same with the sitting superintendent shall build his or her cabinet in the best way that they see fit. Future superintendents may decide, hey, I'm gonna have 3 or 4 people. The cabinet is to the working group that the administrator wants to work with. So, okay, any other questions? I will call for the vote, roll call vote. Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Cannacchioli?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well, 5 in the affirmative. Both policies passed. Thank you to Mrs. Griffin and Mr. Cannacchioli for the hard work on this.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Mr. Ledoux,
I just, before you
Oh,
go.
go right ahead.
A shout out
Mr.
just to
Cannaville.
our policy committee members as well. They're amazing. They do a lot of the hard work. Al and I just sit back.
We listen and we take the wisdom from others. So all the credit really goes to the amazing team we have, and also Dr. Nash and Helen's, insight that they can provide from that other perspective that we don't have being with that admin team. So we've got a great team. We're very blessed.
Thank you. Thank you for that standing committee. Mr. Ledoux, please give us the status of the coffee building on Carbuncle Drive.
Thank you, sir. The first item I have for you this evening is discussion of the coffee building. Upon our budget discussions over the past few weeks, coffee has been an item, as typically what we've had the past 2 years, that'd be fiscal 20 and fiscal 21. We budgeted about $20,000 per year for the coffee building. Now, I remind you, this building was vacated in 2019, so we no longer use it. Well, in reality, what we spend is about, I would estimate, just less than $10,000 a year in overhead costs for this building. It's about $900 a year on pest control, about $8,000 on electricity. The building has electric heat, so we keep the heat on very, very low, on about 50, so the pipes don't freeze. And we also do have telephone and alarm on the building. So those are our overhead costs. Again, I estimate about just under $10,000 per year. Well, the reason why this came up is we said, well, geez, we don't utilize this building. Why are we spending money on these overhead costs? So what I want to bring to the committee was the idea of turning over the custody and control of this building to the Board of Selectmen. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I didn't really want to get into the condition of the building. However, I can speak to a few things if the committee desires. But what it really boiled down to, again, was, well, the school department doesn't use this for educational purposes. So do we want to continue to put money into this building? At this time, I'll answer any questions if anybody has anything.
Thank you, Mr. Ledoux. I know that, I know Mr. Canacchioli has worked in that building, also Mr. Nugent has worked in that building. I have been in that building, and that is not fit to house any type of educational systems, plus maybe storage. At this point, it has been abandoned from us. It is not serving its purpose, and I'll entertain a motion to return that building to the Board of Selectmen.
If I might, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have 2 months ago alerted the town manager that this would be a potential to come before the school committee. She's aware that it's on the agenda this evening. Her comment to me was it probably is going to be a building that we're going to have to rip down because she believes that it is in a bad state of disrepair. Justin had photos that he and I looked at of the building. I concur with him that it would not be a building that I would put students in at this time. It would take a great deal of cost for us to look at upgrading it to even thinking that it could be used. So
I have a motion. So please make that motion. Mr. Burke, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
Justin, when and if we vote this in, does it take effect immediately? So we stop paying as of this vote, or when does the transfer take over on this vote, or are we still paying until it gets destroyed or whatnot? Like, once we turn this over in a vote, if we do, what's the next steps? Are we still on the hook for payments?
Legally, I believe the Board of Selectmen has to accept the building. However, I'd have to check with Mark Terry on that. It's my understanding, we've already budgeted this year for these expenses, so I would assume that we would at least own it till the end of this fiscal year. The plan was to not include this in our budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
I'd want to have some conversation based on your vote this evening as to what the thought might be on the town side with respect to the building. I mean, they may have a use for it, and they may decide that they want to use it for something immediately, and then those discussions would take place as to who would continue. But we had forecasted that we did not want to carry it forward in next year's budget, at minimum.
Thank you. Procedurally, I do have to make an amendment to the motion. Actually, I ask Mr. Burke to withdraw his motion, please.
Yep.
In the second. Thank
I
you.
withdraw my second.
So the proposed motion, I guess, to declare surplus would be, I would move to declare the building known as the Coffee Building, located at 9 Carbuncle Drive, as no longer necessary for school purposes, effective January 11th, 2021, and to instruct the secretary of the school committee to notify the Board of Selectmen and town manager of this declaration.
I would make that move.
We have a motion, do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
And I'll continue discussion. Thank you. Now that the motion is made and seconded. I know from my history, graduating class of '85, that probably was moved in here in 1979, and from what I understood, those came as surplus from another community. As remember, if the old red buildings over by Jocelyn, those portable classrooms, that in front of the old Jocelyn, between Jocelyn Middle School. So I think we've got the money and the purposes out of it. Like I said, Mr. Nugent working there, Mr. Canocoli working there, and I've toured it. They did a wonderful job working with the building, what was left of the building, trying to maintain it with very little budget, maintaining it with the students and with the staff there's expertise as part of their own, that's where they had to live in. At this stage, it's no longer functional for us. Okay, Mr. Dr. Nash gives the update. Any further discussion?
Just,
Yes.
the sentimental side of me, obviously I spent a couple of years there, and the program has had great benefits long before I got there and well before I got there. And, certainly after I left there. So I would hope that maybe our board down the line, depending on what the town decides to do with that building, to have some sort of, monument, some sort of something, just to, to replicate that that's where the building was, and just to show some respect to it, because, I know over the years, it probably didn't get a great rap across lots of avenues in this town, but, knowing what it did the couple of years I was in there for kids and before and beyond and what it did for this district, to be quite honest with you. So I'm hoping that's something we can entertain as a board, some sort of recognition when and if it does get torn down, to say that this is where it housed from '79 to 2019.
You and Mr. Nugent each get a shingle. All right, all in favor? Mrs. Griffin? Oh, any further discussion? Yes, yes,
May
yes.
I ask one question? So one thing comes to my mind is, what if the Board of Selectmen choose to repurpose this property, this piece here next to our schools? Is there any type of limitation in what they can use that, building for? Would it become a concern if it was used for certain things, maybe in the town? I don't know. So I know we're kind of handing over the custody of the building, but it's right next between, the middle school and the high school. And I don't know if the school department would have a say after the fact about what that property is used for, if it's something that we are concerned about. So I guess that's my only reservation.
I'll yield to Dr. Nash.
I think the larger question is whether or not it's financially feasible for them to use it. Once you turn the building over back to a town, it no longer, it needs to be up to code. And again, I don't know what the code might be. Oftentimes when school departments return buildings, school buildings, because they build a new one, but the town still wants that building, the costs are extremely high to bring that up to code. So, I, again, can't predict down the road what's going to happen with that building, but I think they're going to have to be obviously very financially, it needs to reap some kind of cost that would make it useful for them to spend the money that they're probably going to spend. For example, if they needed to do an extension of their town hall services, needed to extend their town hall and needed to use it for that, I could see something like that. But again, it would be pretty costly for them to do that, and the cost may outweigh the value. So I can't answer you to say specifically, but question other than when it gets turned over to the town, they do own that building. and they determine how to use it. But I would be pretty certain that they would probably have a conversation with the superintendent and school committee with respect to how they're going to use it, because you have concerns about parking and things like that. So it certainly couldn't be used to have some kind of program like the community center where people are coming and going. You know, that probably isn't feasible, first of all, just with the building. But, yeah. Could be a town department, maybe, but again, you know, don't know. Could be an offshoot of that typically would happen.
My question is about the greenhouse, since the two Daves have worked there. Does that greenhouse belong to the middle school or to the coffee school?
Coffee.
It does. So that goes too, because I would love to see that put back into action. Thank you.
Further questions, discussion? Call for the vote. Mrs. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Forbes?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Cannacchioli?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well, 5 in the affirmative, and that building will be notified. The
Would
selectmen
you
don't vote.
authorize us on behalf of the secretary to send those, draft those letters
Yes, we
and
can.
send them?
Yeah, we amended the
We will
motion.
we will do that.
Okay. Tonight, I'm going to hold both Vanpool and Durham Transportation. Those items will be held off the agenda, will not be acted upon this evening. Next item on the agenda is Fraser Engineering. Mr. Ledoux, do you have an air exchange report for us from them?
Yes, sir. So as the committee is aware, we brought in Fraser Engineering to review our air exchange equipment at every school building in town. The report, we got the report back just a few weeks ago. What they had found was a few mechanical issues. We quickly had our facilities department address those. There's a few dampers or various things that weren't opening, but those have been corrected. I guess the meat and potatoes of this report is the air exchange. That's what we want to see, was what are our systems capable of doing for air exchange, and do they bring in enough fresh air to an acceptable level? And to answer that, yes. The report shows 98% of the rooms that we have bring in higher than 4 exchanges per hour, which is part of the Dr. Allen's study. He says that that's an acceptable level, anywhere between 4 to 6. So it's kind of all over the place where these air exchanges lie. Some of them are extremely high. I guess it kind of correlates to the building. For example, if you look at the high school, the air exchanges at the high school is much better, if you will, than some of the older buildings. We wanted to use this information to see where to deploy air purifiers. So the majority of the air purifiers we need at the middle school. So we've put 20 there. I believe there's only a handful of rooms. So let me back up a little bit. The air purifiers weren't just to address the air exchange issue. It was also to address any rooms that had windows that do not open, or some of the sped sub-separate classrooms where students can't wear masks. We also want to make air purifiers available to those rooms. So again, it's for those rooms that would have under 4 air exchanges per hour, and some of those other rooms where the windows wouldn't open, or there's other things going on. So at this time, we've deployed about 40 air purifiers. We've done 10 at each elementary school, 20 at the middle school. And again, this is above and beyond what we needed to do. If we just simply went by what the report said, it would be far less than that. But we felt it was, better if if the teacher doesn't feel comfortable, if the window doesn't open or something to that effect, that they would have an air purifier available. Also, we are looking at soliciting quotes right now to have the actual air balancing company come in to do the actual air exchange, to find out what the actual air flow is. Because again, I just remind you, this report was just to measure the equipment, not the actual air exchange, just what the equipment is capable. Because again, it defeated the purpose to bring in a company to do an air balancing if come to find out that your equipment wasn't up to where it needed to be. So the first thing was to look at the equipment and then supplement with the air purifier. So we are soliciting quotes for that. Whether or not we'll act on that, I don't believe so. Given the what we're finding in this report, don't believe it's necessary, but at least we'll have that kind of in our back pocket if we need to look at that in the future. I'll be happy to answer any questions regarding the report. I believe you should have got a copy of the report in your packet this evening.
Mrs. Forbes.
Hi, Justin. So you alluded to there were some mechanical issues that have been addressed and repaired. So on the last page of this report here, under the next steps, clean the coils, adjust the dampers, da-da-da, and then the visual inspection notes, I know are not mechanical, but has that all been addressed? Is that what you were referring to?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm referring to. So those items that they found when they came in and did the inspection, this was given to our facilities department first and foremost, and they addressed any mechanical issues that the engineering firm had found.
Okay, thank you. So just
Yes.
on that next step list, the only thing is that we haven't done is the air balancer to check, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cannapoli, go ahead.
So, Justin, I mean, really the only school I see that has anything under the 4 to 6 threshold is OMS. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I don't think you were in the district yet, but we had all sorts of work done to the heating and cooling system there. When I was coming on board there several years back as an assistant principal, I mean, so this was measuring the equipment? The equipment was that out of, that, I mean, did we not get updated stuff when this work was done prior, or did that work not correlate with this, that you're aware of?
I don't believe that work correlated with this. So I believe with the middle school system, there's two different, let me back up a little bit. Most schools, the HVAC system and the air intake are one and the same. It kind of pumps the air through the univents. It's my understanding that the middle school was done a little bit differently. That HVAC upgrades was only for the heating and cooling. There's cooling in some spots in that building, not the entire building. The air system is actually a little bit different. They use a different venting system for the air. I don't believe it comes through the univents in middle school. So I think it's two different things as far as the air intake and HVAC.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Ledoux, have copies of this been shared with each building as well as the OEA?
Yes, the OEA received a copy this past week, and our building principals received it at our last meeting.
So this is, so every educator, every staff member, family would have access to questions about this? In full transparency?
Yeah, the building principals have it, and the
Yep.
OEA has it.
Thank you.
Right, yep. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hard copy. Yep.
Anyone else? No, thank you, Ms. Ledoux.
I have one question. Mr.
Yep.
if I- So you did mention that some classrooms and different places have windows that don't open and whatnot. Is that going to be addressed through a capital, expenditure coming up? Can we have documentation of what rooms have issues with windows functioning, and what's the plan on fixing those and the timeline?
I don't think they're broken.
I don't believe it's like a mechanical issue.
Yeah.
The window's not broken. It was purposely designed that way where the window just doesn't open.
Right.
So I guess, yeah.
So generally with those rooms that do not have windows that open, go up and down, where you can't use fresh air, that has an individual system, as they explained it to me back in the fall, on top of the roof right above it. So an interior room that would have no windows, or any other, I know we have, one of our schools has a room that we talked about that doesn't have that ability. It usually has a system by itself on the roof with a fan there that would create that air exchange for that particular room. But we felt that, while there isn't a need unless this, to do that, sometimes in some of those rooms, not all, they may not be classrooms, and they could be rooms where we're servicing special needs students, and sometimes doing some of the one-on-one where a student doesn't have a mask. So in some of those rooms, that with windows that don't open, I can think of one in particular, we would put a PAC in that room, offer it in that room also. But I don't think it's mechanical, Palmina. It's just the building was built that way.
But I guess out of curiosity, is that something that we would need to look into?
Well,
Rectifying at some point, having the windows that open in all those?
that's a huge capital.
That's structural.
It is, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's structural. We can I mean, take that up at a
I
different
think
meeting, but
it's-
at this stage, no,
I would,
we can move
I
forward.
would suggest it would be dependent on whether it's a classroom. I'm not sure that there are classrooms in this district, that where windows do not open. There could be some rooms that you are using as small group instruction rooms, but I'm not sure, and Justin may know better than I, if there are any classrooms where you actually have that. I don't know, Justin, do you know of any where we have windows that do
I
not?
don't believe of any actual classrooms. Again, there might be some, I think it's the speech pathology room at Barton School is the one in particular where the window doesn't open. And again, it's because there's a vent right above the window. But that was done by design. It's not that the window's broken. So I mean, again, in the future, if you folks want to look at a capital to replace the windows, but there's nothing that was wrong. This only came out, due to the COVID situation, and we said, well, geez, you should open your windows, and the response was, well, geez, we can't open the windows. So that's why we offered, the PACs to supplement, even though the air exchange is fine for that. But if it was something that the committee wanted to explore in the future, of being able to open some of these smaller rooms with, the windows, and I mean, we could certainly look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Ledoux. Anything further on this topic?
No, that's all for this evening.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Nash, you have a report, please.
Sure. Actually, I have two reports for you. One is actually the most recent memorandum that came out with respect to assessment and accountability, that update. I point out a couple of things. Last week, the commissioner had our a Zoom meeting with all the superintendents and others, and he was pretty clear when talking about assessment in 2021 that his main goal is to use it as a diagnostic and not as accountability. To that end, he has gone that far that he is going to provide accountability relief to underperforming districts. So there are modifications in MCAS this year. MCAS will still be delivered in grades 3 through 8, as we know. It will be a short and abridged version. They have amended the competency determinations for the class of 2021. They have created and provided flexibility in testing for the biology test, and they have extended the window for testing for our students who are English language learners. So there are changes. One question that did come up to the commissioner was, given the fact that the administration is changing on the national level with the new Department of Education person who happens to be the former Connecticut commissioner, an individual that Commissioner Riley indicated he probably spoke to weekly as another New England counterpart of his. We do not know whether there will be any waivers, as there were last year, for states to apply. However, even if there are, I got the very strong sense, listening to the commissioner, that Massachusetts would probably not apply, because he certainly, I think, feels that we need to assess kids and use MCAS particularly this year to know where the learning gaps might be, and then to set up programs, particularly in the spring or summer, for our students. So that's the update on that.
Thank you. Questions on that update, Mr. Franchioli?
I don't see anything on grade 10. Grade 10 is the high stakes test,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
where is that? What is the talk about that?
This is what they've released to date. I'm assuming they're still going to assess in grade 10. They just have not released any information. This is all that they have released at this time, Dave. I had the same question.
Yeah, no, that's all.
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah, I had the
too.
same
was like, where's
question.
grade 10?
Have you heard anything, Via? No. Yeah. So I think they looked at the competency determination for our most current, our 2021. They also looked at, of course, the MCAS biology, because students take that early on. But I think they're still working out, my hunch is, the kinks, because one of the questions that we all have, even in grades 3 through 8, is what happens if you're in full remote? What is that test going to look like? And so I think we'll be seeing more details later on. We don't even know really if the timeline is going to be similar to what it's been in the past. So that's the first piece.
Okay.
The second piece is just an update to you on a structured learning time. As you know, the Board of Education, many years ago, I think it was Time on Learning, it was called then, came out with regulations regarding time on learning for students, basically defining the number of hours at secondary level and the number of hours at elementary level. Back in November of this year, the commissioner indicated in one of his Zoom meetings that he was probably going to be collecting, probably it was in October, collecting data from districts regarding student learning time because of the concerns at a multitude of levels about how varied it looked across the state. Certainly because some school districts were full remote, some were partial, some were hybrid. Everyone had negotiated different MOAs with their unions regarding what that would look like. As a result of that, he collected from districts a snapshot in time of what we were doing in early November. And that snapshot in time was in grades 1, 4, 7, and 10. And as a result of that, they produced this document for districts and basically indicated changes would be forthcoming or amendments to the regulations, the structured learning time regulations, with respect to the amount of time that students who were in a hybrid or remote would need to, we would need to expect. As the regulations basically say that if a student is in a hybrid learning model, that on average, and this is the average of grades 1, 4, 7, and 10, students need to have 35 hours of what they call live instruction. Live instruction is defined as in-person and remote synchronous. So you have, we've included for you the actual documentation that we had to submit to DESE. Our grades 1 and 4 are the same. They average 37 hours of what we call live instruction, and our secondary grades 7 and 10 average the same, 45. So our average of the 4 is roughly 43. So we are, you can see in that last page where we sit compared to other districts. As the commissioner had indicated, 70% of the districts will need to make no change. 15% will make minimal changes, and 15% will be radically having to change what their structured learning time looks like. This is if you are in a hybrid model. Should you go to a full remote model, then that increases to 40 hours of what we call live instruction, which is the combination, which in this case would be remote synchronous, totally. So I feel really good about this. I collected this evidence during that week from each of our principals. We used the average, but I can tell you consistently that the middle school and high school were pretty similar. We know this varies a little bit. We use the average of the remote synchronous at our elementary schools, which ranged anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, and so we took the average of the 3. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. They say that they are probably going to come back in the spring and do something similar. Again, I put in a letter out to all of our professional staff and support staff on January 6th. That letter went to the OEA president prior to my putting it out to ensure that there was nothing there that we potentially wouldn't have to have some discussion about, as they say. And so we feel that all of our teachers really are probably, meeting minimally the 35 and certainly over that.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All right, thank you, Dr. Nash. Anything else this evening?
Just one other thing that's not here that I know I've apprised the chair and I think a couple of other members. We were informed also on Thursday that there's going to be a second round of ESSER money coming out. It's called ESSER 2. That money will be coming out, be allocated similar to the way ESSER 1 was allocated last spring, now maybe. And according to our Title I formula, we received approximately $377,000 in ESSER 1 money. As you know, that money was earmarked for a lot of it were positions. We had 2 remote we do have 2 remote teaching positions. We thought we would have 3. We had our bus monitors, we had our health and safety and all of that. This new allocation of money, according to what was released yesterday to us, will be, I hate to say this, but it's here, and I'm going to read it, will be 3 times more than your allocation of ESER 1. Now, the commissioner did indicate in his notes that the state received $815 million in money. And all of this was part of that December 28th package that the President of the United States signed. And if you will remember, that was earmarked only for elementary and secondary schools. Monies did not come directly to the state, and then they dispersed them. So they bypassed, and this is one of the concerns that many of the governors have, that the states did not receive extra money. So this is money that was earmarked and sent directly to states to be used by the departments of elementary and secondary education. So the funding formula is that we will receive our exact allotment in February. It must be expended, just by way of background. The CARES money that we received had to be expended initially by December 31st of this year. That was extended to, is it December 31st of the following year, Justin?
I'm sorry, I was muted.
The CARES money was extended by a year, if I remember correctly.
The current CARES money?
Yes.
Yes, at least till next year.
Next year. The ESER 1 money that was supposed to run out at the end of this year has been extended to September of 2022, and this new ESER 3 money must be spent by September 30th of 2023. So when we get this allotment, be it a little over 377,000, or be it 3 times that, it will have strong implications for us in our budget, both in FY22, but obviously going forward. So we will probably want to have another budget meeting in addition to the one that we're having this Wednesday, which we can begin to have some discussion. But I think in February, once we get this allotment, we certainly are going to, have a better handle on how much and then how to proceed with that. But it will give you some opportunities to spend it. The priorities are the same as the priorities of ESER 1, which is a pretty broad-based priorities for a one-time cost as well as funding new positions. You cannot use it as part of your increases for salaries or anything like that, but you certainly can fund new positions, and you can use it for a lot of one-time costs. So we will need to see what that figure looks like, and then we're going to have to really look at how you anticipate and how you would like to use that in the next few years. So that's good news, I think. Yeah, real good news. So stay tuned, as they say, to see whether that's 3% or 3 times. I'm reading off of what they sent. So if they go, oops, guess what, we made a mistake, well, I think we're all going to be saying, well, wait a minute. You didn't say that. Okay, and that's it, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's a big difference, huge difference.
Thank you.
So that is it for me.
Mrs. Griffin, do you have a warrant report for us, please?
I do. So I have a warrant report for January 11th, 2021. So we have a school lunch warrant for December 22nd, 2020 for $2,787.96 that was signed. An accounts payable warrant for December 22nd of 2020 for $32,286.18. A payroll warrant dated December 24th, 2020 for $566,565.52. An accounts payable warrant dated December 29th, 2020 for $74,944.38. An accounts payable warrant for January 5th, 2021 for $77,547.67, and a payroll warrant dated January 7th, 2021 for $541,750.45.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin. Any questions on that? Being none, Mrs. Griffin, you still have the floor.
So just for like my members' comments this evening, I did have the opportunity to follow up with Senator Fatman's office in regards to Durham transportation. And I did a lot of research the last few weeks to see how other school committees were handling this paying for services unrendered. And based on just some preliminary research, other school committees like Chelmsford, Lowell, Haverhill, some bigger communities have not decided not to be paying for services unrendered based on, you know, the situation that we're presently in and the circumstances with our budgets. And I did reach out to Senator Fatman and I spoke to his aide, Keith Christensen, in regards to the fact that, you know, over, you know, the terms that I've been here on school committee, I've been through the bid process a few times, and I've seen it kind of not always work very well for Oxford. And in the past, we haven't really gotten the best bids. I felt like people were kind of not bidding on certain territories, and I shared this concern that, you know, based on my limited, you know, scope of seeing things, it hasn't always been a fair process. And he advocated for me to reach out to MASC and other school committees across the Commonwealth to kind of gather data. And, you know, his hope is that he would support us if there was enough data, possibly in future legislation, to make sure that, you know, any bids that come to communities are fair. And we do have a process here that should work for the state, but at the same time, you know, in different communities, sometimes things don't always work out the way that we would hope them to be happening. So I'm just putting that out there. Other school committees that could possibly, you know, hear from our committee. If you know of anybody in other committees that, you know, you feel like speaking to them about their process that they've had in the past with bids for bus transportation, that would be great. And anything that you could share with me that I could share with Keith Christensen would be much appreciated. And I did reach out to Tracy and also asked her to advocate, you know, based from MASC with Senator Fatman's office to kind of support us and looking for better ways to handle these things. One particular thing that I would like to see undone is that Act of 2020, which was Mass General Chapter 41, Section 56, that used to prohibit payments to vendors when services were unrendered. And then there was a change in line 153 of Section 2680 that allows for schools to make payments to vendors for services unrendered, you know, if they decide to do so. We don't have to, but if we decide to do so, I think there's a lot of communities that feel the pressure that they now should do something. But I'm going to end on this note. There are other programs that can bail out these businesses, like the Paycheck Protection Program, like EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Programs. And it doesn't have to be off, you know, the backs of community members here when we're trying to, you know, get our budget, every cent that we have to give the best education to our students. So if we were getting a service from this, I'd be gung-ho about giving money. But since we're not, I'd like that money to go to the education of our students in our community. And there are other programs that could hopefully help these businesses. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin. Mrs. Forbes.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin. So I wanted to comment on another thing that I saw. The high school student council has been working on ways to engage students, and I'm not sure if any of you had the pleasure of seeing A Day in the Life. They had these little clip videos of the student council representatives sharing a day in their life. And it was just another way for students to engage, and I watched a few, and they were fabulous, and I'm glad to know that my son has the same boring life as everyone else. The holiday trivia was fun. Mr. Nugent, I would like to request that you get some of the kindergarten teachers creating some of those questions, because where Ms. Castonguay got some of that information, those questions I never even heard of. It was a lot of fun, but I was not in the running to be a winner at all. And thank you to everyone who put those things on for the students. I just wanted to congratulate the students who received the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. That's wonderful. And of course to Mr. Zella for his amazing athletic achievements, academic achievements throughout his years here, as well as his athletic as well. And congratulations to Pat and her staff, and also to the custodial staff, because I'm sure they're an integral part of their Board of Health inspection success. That's it for me.
I just want to say we're going to be having a number of conversations in the near future about our superintendent search. And one of those is definitely about the recruitment for the search committee. I would encourage our staff, our administrators, and our community members to really think about being a part of, if not just the focus groups and giving their opinion, but also being a part of that committee to do what I believe is one of the most important things we'll do for a while here.
Yeah, I want to thank Pal. She does an amazing job of researching and coming back to our board with information on things that resonate with her and with a passion. So I want to thank you for that, Pal. I appreciate all that information you gave us. Also to the Adams Scholarship winners, congratulations. Every single name that Mr. Nugent read, I knew each and every one of them. I was their principal when they were in 7th grade, which happened to be the first class that missed the 8th grade down at Oxford Middle School. So they were the first class to come up here as 8th graders. Great group of young men and women, and it was topped off by Mr. Joey Zella, who I remember we did the awards night, that afternoon. We did like a modified graduation to try to give them something. And I know Joey picked up many awards that day, and just seeing him back then, he was a young leader back then, and he just obviously continued to grow down here. Great to see. And Ashley McGowan, who we hear each week, she cleaned up with awards that day too. So two just amazing Oxford High School students that we got to hear from tonight. So congratulations to all of those students. And I just want to thank our committee here for having trust in me, and I'm sure Corey agrees, in the both of us to start the superintendent search. I think it is hands down probably one of the most important searches that we have to do in a long time here in Oxford. We have to find that next leader who can take his or her vision in this district and move us to where we all know we're capable of being, because we have amazing people within the district too. It's just going to take that upper leadership. So I'm really excited to be part of that, excited to work with Corey, and I thank you for that opportunity. So that's it for me, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Canacoli. I'll have time to get a Happy New Year. We're off to the right foot. We have a great committee here working. We have incredibly support people that bring so many things to the table that makes this reading run so fluidly here and in remote. And I do thank everyone for that. I look forward to a great academic second half of the academic school year. At this stage, I will open public comment. Open the floor. Again, please recognize yourself. If the chair recognizes you, I'll wait a minute. As we're waiting for that, our future business, again, topics for future agendas. We are back here Wednesday night for a special meeting. And our next scheduled regular meeting will be Monday, January 25th. Okay, I see no one is taking the floor. Close the floor. And at this time, any further business in front of this board? There being none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5 in the affirmative. We are adjourned. Thank you.